Casual Magic has been brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL for 5% off your order. We're also sponsored by Quiver Time, maker of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine card holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their site for 10% off your purchase. And by Architect, a deck hosting website that doesn't sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them for all your deck list needs. Now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivan Putt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Architect, Cool Stuff Inc., and Quiver. Today, I have a very special guest, one that I've been trying for a while to get on my show, but time zones are hard. Please welcome Amy the Amazonian, one of my favorite streamers to watch on the Twitches. Plays a lot of Brawl, which is like my favorite format that isn't Commander, and I'm super excited to have you here because you're super fun to watch.
I mean, it is Commander. It's just Commander for people who don't have friends because we can't organize a play night, so we're just playing in a random queue with strangers. Yeah, hi, I'm Amy the Amazonian, and I love magic.
The thing is, when Brawl first came out, when it was sold to me, like when Allison and Gavin and friends were telling this to me, they were like, look, the whole point is to go to a draft or go to your FNM or go to your pre-release, and whatever chaff you have, you can just build a deck out of and just play it a couple rounds, and you can reuse all those garbage draft cards you have sitting around. I'm like, this sounds awesome. I would love to use these stupid combat tricks that have no value anywhere else again. And it was super fun for like those 2 months when there were 4 of us playing Brawl.
Yeah, it never really took off as far as I
Absolutely
know,
not.
but it also apparently struggled from a few people did try to like make it into a competitive thing, and then Brawl got so egregious of hey, it turns out especially in 1v1, counter spells are rude.
Oh my
And it's
goodness.
hard to manage another format. I mean, you have some input with Commander, and it's all of this like, yeah, this is a format, and if you don't curate it, then it will be a messy, messy format.
It will be a war zone. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, that was the thing, like, Brawl, I remember watching, early on when Brawl was first taking off, LSV did a video where he was doing a Brawl versus some random people, and it was like a 2.5 hour game of Brawl, and it was just like mono counter spells, and it was, fascinating, but also miserable.
That
It
sounds
was it
awful.
was really cool because he's a very good player, but it was also like, if I was on the other side of this, I would hang myself. This is
It's
terrible.
just it's very spiky if you're doing that,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
that's okay, some people do that, which is why I don't love that Magic Arena really only rewards you for winning, because it's not
Right.
about winning, it's about fun. Always a relevant SpongeBob quote.
Yes, and also, like, the motto of my show, right? Like, the whole
Yeah,
principle, it's
it's
casual,
casual
we're here for
magic.
fun times, and, like, I loved when Brawl first came out on Arena. I was like, "Alright, cool, I can, try to make pseudo command." I liked it when it was still the standard 60 card Brawl and before it became historic Brawl and whatever. Um,
You can still technically play
yeah,
standard
but
Brawl.
I will
You'll
be
be hard pressed to find an opponent, though. You might
yeah, I
be
was gonna say,
waiting a
I'm like,
minute or 2.
I'd be the only one in the queue. But Historic Brawl, though, oh my god, like, for, like, months, it was just Golos, or it was just, you know, Paradox Engine. Why is
Still
Paradox
is.
Engine still legal in that format?
I have no idea. There's a whole bunch of cards that should either be addressed by banning them or having a very, very stringent matchmaking algorithm, because there's no rule zero. There
No.
isn't a way to even have like a custom ban list. So like if I had a custom ban list, let's say you can pick 10 cards and you never see them. So if I'm playing, let's say my Get Rog monster deck, Get
Mm.
Rog's all about sacrificing your own lands. Sometimes I match up against Turgrid, who says, "Oh,
Oh.
you're sacrificing your lands, huh?
Oh.
Well, that's wonderful. I'll be taking those." And it's like, well, I can't play my commander as my commander because their commander is just
Literally
very yeah.
specifically targeted to you.
Or if you're up against like an Elish Norn Mother of Machines and your deck is an Enter the Battlefields and it's just like, oh yeah, I'm playing Garrick, and now it's just about killing your commander over and over. And I would rather we both get to do the thing.
Now I'm just playing a bunch of blank cards, that's great.
Hey, some of
Um
them are like 3/5s. Ooh.
Ooh. Turns out I ended up playing Revised while you're playing Eldraine. This is great. Um, yeah, it just it feels like they did a couple of balances and then they were just like, "Good luck, bye." And it's like, "What the hell?" And they're like, "Here's a bunch of random historic cards and alchemy cards." It feels to me like Historic Brawl is like the dumping grounds for every random experiment, Arena has, and then they never go back and look at it again. They're just like,
Which it's like an unmanaged format, but
"Yes.
it is still, I will say, an extremely highly played
Oh,
format.
yeah.
So, Wizards of the Coast doesn't really share this data because it's not officially out there, but we have a lot of people who use add-ins. Like when I play Magic the Gathering Arena, I have something called untap.gg.
Mhm.
It's something that scrapes my data. It saves all my deck lists. It's really great because it shows me like my match history and everything
Yeah.
like that. And everybody who has it installed is also contributing to their metadata, which they publish as just like, oh yeah, how many people are playing certain game modes. Standard, the most popular by far. You have just like millions of matches being played and being like having their data analyzed. And then if you look at something like historic brawl, it actually has still like one third of the games being played and being analyzed by this. And that's like it's a self-selecting data set. So it isn't
Yeah.
people using this. But then compare that to like alchemy, which has less than 10% of either of those, or even like historic, which is actually like 3 times as popular as alchemy. It's so strange. But
You know,
again, it's standard and then historic brawl. Those are the 2 most popular formats. And as
because
somebody
Historic
who's been
Brawl
I've been all about historic brawl since it didn't even exist. I was like, I want historic brawl, and they finally made it, and it was great.
Historic Brawl is the closest to people have to Commander, and people are desperate for anything, so they will play it, but it also means, like, God, there's some decks in there that just are real heinous.
Well, see, I don't have to play against the Golos's and the Essicas because I play what I'm going to call fair, fun, mid-range magic. Um, the only thing that is like there will be things like Atraxa, these insane value decks that just everybody has to play against these days, and that's a shame. I think that Atraxa should have to go up against Ragavan every single game
Oh, Jesus
because
Christ.
then it will just be like, all right, cool. How many one mana answers do you have in your value pile? Great. I'm going to steal all of them.
Sure, go ahead and play that 7 drop. You will be at, like, 12 by the time it comes out, and I'll just crush you with all my garbage 1/1s. God, that would be real nice because Atraxa I hate that card.
Oh yeah.
It's
It's not
so
fun or interesting. It's just value.
yeah, it's just
It's a
like
grizzle brand. It's nuts.
it's because I've been playing a lot of Historic lately because that Gates deck showed up, and I'm like, "I like Gates, and this is gonna be sufficiently bizarre," but that means it throws me in the Historic queue against people who are doing actual Magic, and then you're like, "Oh, yeah, Atraxa
Oh,
sucks.
yeah,
I forgot about this
combos.
card."
Huh.
It's so weird, like, I forgot about, like, normal Magic decks because 'cause I'm so used to just playing weirdo EDH stuff, and it's like, "Oh, right, you guys can just play 4 copies. That sucks. I'm not a fan."
I don't know. I play Commander, but most just on people's Commander shows and like with friends when I have time. But it's so strange. People have these expectations of Commander when they see like a content creator playing, and
Mm,
I'm just out here like I win every single game I play because I'm the one having fun and helping my table have fun.
thank you.
And that to me is like the most important thing. Like I set goals for myself that it's like I have like 5 different decks that are just about like I want to play as many of your cards as I can. I want to get at least 20 of my lands in the graveyard. It's like
Yes.
I do have the ability to build decks that are just like, "Hey, you wanna see how many triggers I can make in 1 turn? Check this out."
Oh my god. Mm, so, I feel like we jumped the gun here, but, like, some of my favorite clips that you've ever done are just like, "Let's see Amy like, test and trash the arena engine." You know? It's just like, "Oh, what happens if I've got, like, 750 enter the battlefield triggers right now,
It's
and the
fine, the
stack
game
is just this
stops
big
working.
pile?"
Like, there were 254 Vigilant Angel tokens. Each player had thousands of life. We were incapable of progressing the game. Eventually, I did have a lethal swing, and I took it, and the action of attacking caused the game to crash. We had been in a stalemate for an hour. The game did not like that. Oh,
I'm just
well.
imagining the poor engineer who has to look at the logs for this, and it's like, "Why is the buffer data for this, like, 17 terabytes? What is going
I was busy.
on?"
I mean, I found what the overflow number is. It's an unsigned integer if you're dealing damage or gaining life, just so you know. Couple billion, it's fine.
I swear to God, it sometimes it feels like, and take this in the compliment that I mean it, you feel a lot like the Saffron Olive of Arena, in the sense of, like, you are doing some weird system
I
breaking,
used to do more of it, but, like, it's just you have to do it for, like, 5 hours at a time, and then you get it to work once, and
yes,
it's not that great for streaming,
no, but
but
that
it is really fun to do. Sometimes it's just like, "I'm hyper focusing. Leave me alone. This is for me, not for you. You're responsible."
well, it's like, look, you're a scientist, you've got a hypothesis, and you need to, like, run your iterations to make sure the thing works, and then it works the one time, and you're like, "Aha, I got it.
Ah, yes.
It
Now
did
give
the
me
thing."
Battle of Wits so I can do it again. Every single one of my decks is currently I'm just like, it's a witless Battle of Wits deck." It's great.
And I'm just thinking about the poor opponent on the other side who's like, "I don't know what happened anymore. I'm just here until you're done. Please show me what's going on." Oh my goodness gracious. Um, let's pull back like 300 steps if we can, because I'm curious, how did you get into, like, streaming on Arena? Like, where did you find Magic, I guess?
I learned Magic, I guess 14 years ago now, in 2009.
What set
My
was
friend
that?
it was M10,
Mm,
and I wanna say the Scars of Mirrodin stuff
mm.
was all around then, but I didn't know what a set was when I started playing because, I was taught by my friend Anders in our college freshman dorm. He is such a ladies' man. He taught me and a bunch of other girls how to play Magic, and guess what? That's how you make friends in college. Be nice to girls, teach them how to play Magic, and then you will have more people to play Magic with,
Turns
and
out.
it's awesome. Yeah, so we all learned how to play Magic. He was actually somebody who did, like, Star City grinding and, like no, like, he did tournament stuff, but he was willing to, like, sit down and, like, build some little goofy decks for us. I
Yes.
ended up like, my first ever deck I built for me was an Ajani's Pridemate. Now I know it's a Soul Sisters deck. I didn't know that. I was just like, "Yeah, look, this one gains life, and this
And
one
it gets
gets bigger
bigger.
when you gain the life. It's really cool." And then got into Commander from there, but I have been streaming for far, far longer than I've been playing Magic. I've been streaming since I was like 14 years old. I'm 32 now, I think. So it's been over half my life and it just
How?
progressed. What do you mean? I mean, the website I was streaming on doesn't even exist anymore. It was called Stickam. Um,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, okay, look, Twitch is like 2008, 2009, something like that, and
it
then
wasn't
before
even
that,
Justin TV. It
yeah,
didn't
Justin
exist.
TV. I guess I mean, I know that in, like, 2000, my friends and I were doing internet radio on, like, we were doing, like, live streaming internet radio shows, and then we had, real media streaming stuff, but, like, you've been streaming yourself playing games since, like, 2000 something?
Whoa, 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 not playing games.
Or just
Computers could not handle that. Getting a single camera feed was already, like, so taxing on a computer, because this was in the early 2000s, that it was just like, "Yeah, hey, it's people on a camera, and maybe we're talking about some fun stuff." It's conversational, like, the websites are just like that. The
Whoa.
only kind of streaming that existed outside of, like, a couple pro things was just chatting, and I remember, I was still doing some games related stuff though, because like, G4 Tech TV at the time would actually call upon some of the bigger streamers, and this is before you could monetize streaming, so I didn't make any money, it was just, like, things I did with friends. Me, a couple other folks, we would call into the shows. I say call into, it was more like we would have a segment that we had planned ahead of time and recorded to, like, ask questions or, like, talk about games that had just come out. We were part of, like, the launch for Halo 2. It's like it tied into TV, but when that website went under, so did all the people who knew me there, so it was just like, "Oh, cool, cool, cool." So you start from scratch again, and you do that every single time a website dies. But this was the early internet. like, or not
And you
not even
could
early,
start over
middle
again.
internet. It was a no man's land. That stuff happened.
You say early internet, but I got on the internet back in, like, 1989, so,
Yeah.
like, the
I
early
That's why I'm
internet for
saying it's the middle internet.
yeah, I'm like, the early internet for me was going to, like, get magazines out of weird, shady computer stores in Worcester or whatever, and looking on the back page for numbers you could dial into to get into BBSs when I was 12. I found some really interesting and different things when I was a kid. My dad got me a computer, from Digital Equipment Corporation, the company he worked for, with a 1200 baud modem. So, yeah, I've been on the internet a long time. It's,
Oh, yeah.
it's been
Oh,
great the whole time, let me tell
I
you.
still feel, like, ancient whenever I talk about, like, message boards and even, like, IRC. Like,
Oh
Twitch
my
chat is
god,
actually
seriously.
it's running through IRC. You can technically
Yeah,
join Twitch through MIRC, which is so
that's so
weird to
funny.
me. Weird.
Yeah, like, people are like yeah, I'm like, everybody's like, "Wow, Discord's so cool." I'm like, "Bro, we were doing Discord like 100 years ago in black and
Oh,
white and
gosh,
just called it
yeah.
IRC and
I remember,
MIRC."
like, people would be running, what were they called? Like, Moos and Muds, through them. It was
Mhm.
so cool. I
Muds
miss
and
that
Mucks and
stuff.
Moos, yeah, I played a lot.
Mhm.
Gemstone and all those other just trash ass login games. But yeah, this is not about how white my hair is. Um, I'm actually though that's really fascinating to me. Like, how did you discover the idea of streaming though? Like, just taking a video camera and pointing it to yourself is something that these days we're just like, "Oh, yeah, of course." But, like, in
Cell phones didn't have
2000
cameras then.
no,
To
cell
put
phones
this
didn't
in
even have
context for
cell phones
younger
barely had
people.
screens.
Yeah, no, like, I got my first smartphone, like, a decade later.
Like, the
Um
web cameras too back then were very garbage.
Oh, yeah, no, it was very grainy. It was, like, 140 pixels, just goodness.
It was like looking at a
And
Game Boy printer or something.
oh, hey, listen, Game Boy printer kicks ass. Game Boy camera, one of the best games ever made. I love that thing. Um, Now I don't know how I got into it. I'm pretty sure I was on a forum. Again, we are older internet users here. And somebody mentioned it on a forum that I did. I'm going to go ahead and guess because I don't really remember Dragon Ball Z role play on because obviously that's what I'm doing with my time when I'm like 13 years old. I'm a cool hip nerd. Got to talk about this stuff somewhere. And yeah, and somebody was like, "Oh yeah, there's this thing called like streaming." And I was probably just like, "Well, you could talk to people on the internet." I'm the kind of person who goes into like voice lobbies in like shooter games and is just like, "Hey, does anybody want to be friends and talk about their feelings?"
Y you're you're like the exact person that people would have been like, "And this is the case study for how this child was abducted."
Yeah,
Yeah.
except I was really good at internet. So all I was doing was making friends with strangers.
I mean, I laugh, but I was exactly the same way. Like, I definitely went into a lot of chat rooms and made a lot of friends and sent people, like, physical mail, like, pictures we're passing back and forth, or we would write letters to each other and then meet up in our chat rooms, and, yes, it was I
I didn't
played
have a camera though, so nobody knew it. I would just be like, "Hi, I'm definitely I'm like 18. Yep, 100% 18, not
not
12,
not at all 12, nope,
not
not
6." I think my
yeah.
first forum, I learned how to type very early thanks to my brother. It was like 6 years old that I'm like reading things about like my favorite game, The Legend of Zelda. I'm like, oh my god, I need the strategies. I'm now good at this game. It's hard. It was
Uh,
hard when you're 6.
yeah, it was hard when I was 6 the first time around and it came out. Yeah, no, I learned how to type in Diablo chat room, so I completely understand. Like, you gotta keep up with the IRC as it's scrolling, by the time your
Mhm.
paragraph is done, they're already gone, and, like, man, I miss mailing lists and I miss IRC. But, that's completely bananas to me that, like so then you started playing Magic in college. What did you
Yeah.
do in college? You were, like you're an engineer or something, right?
Yeah, I studied mechanical engineering. I have a degree in it. Um, I just kind of studied what I ended up studying as a fluke, but like that's fine. I very go with the flow.
Hmm,
Um,
you ended up
and
into it?
got my degree. Yeah, I didn't sign up to be a mechanical engineer. There was a paperwork error and they put me in mechanical engineering.
Oh, shit.
And I'm really down with anything, and I was like, "That sounds like a field that I can afford an apartment on. That sounds okay to me. Sure."
Wait, what did you wanna do?
I didn't know.
You just signed up
I
for
think I
college or something?
applied, to this specific school as an environmental, uh yeah, I think it was environmental engineering, but I applied under, like, different things from different ones because I didn't really have an advisor in high school. I went
Mm.
to a public school system, and it was a good public school, but it was still a public school, and we had whatever resources we had, and it was just like, "Yo, yeah, I like math, I'm good at it, and I guess physics is cool too.
Mm.
What does that?" And they're like, "Engineering." I'm like, "Okay, what's the
Sold.
difference between engineering types?" And they're like, "We don't know." I was like, "Okay, cool. I like the environment. Check that one off."
And
That's
they
what
shoved
that
you into
means, right?
well, I
No.
mean, to be fair though, if you like math and physics, mechanical engineering kind of is the place.
Yeah, but I also liked writing and I liked art.
Those are
I
things that are
actually
non-mechanical engineering.
I almost went to MIT to be an art student. So like listen, there's many different worlds that we could have lived in.
And being an art student at MIT just seems like it's
It
so
was like a
wildly
media
incongruous.
subject, so it was more like kind of the science of creating media, but it was art. It was like I applied and I was like, "Here's the flash animations that I made.
Damn,
Here's like the stuff that I did in relation to art. Here's like my sculptures." And I guess they liked it.
that's amazing. Yeah, like, I started as a dual major of, computer science and biochemical engineering, and I
Ooh,
graduated with a dual major in English and international relations
those are
Japanese.
not the same at all. Those
They
are the
sure
opposite.
aren't.
One of
Let me
those is
tell you what
math
my
and one of them is people.
let me tell you what my first generation Indian parents who wanted me to be a doctor scientist thought about when I came out with my English degree.
They were, I'm sure, thrilled. They were very loving, supportive, and totally understood, that
And
they
my tall white
paid for your
girlfriend.
very expensive education.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let me tell you, the word nonplussed was developed for this situation specifically. Um, and now I talk about magic cards. They're thrilled to death about that, let me tell you. Um, but so, okay, like, I'm just trying to piece your life together because the thing is, you're an incredibly charismatic person and you're really, really good on camera and you're really, really fun and enthusiastic and engaging,
Oh,
which is, I
thank
guess, the
you.
good. Hmm? Well, I
Thank
mean,
you. That's
I,
really nice.
you're like you're exactly the type of person that I enjoy watching because you're having fun and you know how
It's
to
a
enjoy and engage
game.
your
You're
audience.
supposed to have fun.
Right? You would think that. You would think that. However, we have learned that large segments of our fellow gamesmen are perhaps not on that page. But it's just like, oh yeah, somebody's doing this who enjoys themselves. Like I just find that so refreshing and fun, as opposed to just like people who silently sit and grind or sit and just like gripe about this. I'm like, there's a million things to do in your life, man. You don't have to do this one if you don't like it. It's
There's
okay.
a lot of people who they're really, really good at magic, and sometimes you could watch them for like the technicality of it. And there's also a lot of people who are very good at magic that just can't talk while they're playing or explain it.
Yeah, like
By the way, if you've never streamed video games, for this is
it's
for anybody
very
listening,
hard.
it is very difficult to concentrate on both playing and being entertaining. And if you're an interactive streamer, talking to people, that
Yes.
kind of stuff can be hard. But like it's a
Mhm.
muscle. You exercise it, you get better at it.
Yeah, like, I'll be honest, I've only tried it a couple of times, which is why I don't have a lot of reps in it, but I have a very hard time focusing on this and that at the same time. Like, trying to hit the chat and then also play the game, especially like, I tried to stream Civ, which is the wrong thing to stream because if I get sucked into Civilization, I'm not paying attention to the chat, and then it just becomes very boring watching me play Civ. Um, I should try that again, though, that'd be a lot of fun.
Okay, so there's a game on my stream that we call the Beaver game, which I have to uninstall from my computer because it's the actual name of the game is called Timberborn. It's a sim game where you're managing a city, a colony of beavers,
Oh, I saw
and
Surge play this once.
it's great. Yeah, Surge plays it. I've played it. It is the game though that I will sit there and I'll be like, all right, I can sit down and I'm gonna play for 1 hour. and it is 7 hours later, and I have not said a word, and, I can't stream this because, like, I'll keep a dialogue running if I'm streaming, but a lot of it's just like, "Oh, no, I gotta make sure that beaver doesn't die. I'm gonna have to Alright, we need to get the water storage over here." And it's just like this like manic just like pressure of I have to micromanage my beavers and have to play the beaver so yeah, I have to uninstall that game or that's all I'll do. All I'll do is play Beaver Ball.
That's I know the feeling though, because that game is
But
very
that's
compelling.
but that like for Civ, it's the same thing. You're just
Yes.
like,
Yes.
"Oh yeah, well you a game of Civ can last hours. In
Mm.
fact, it can not end."
It can last until 3 days from now or, like,
Mhm.
just forever. But yeah, like, that's a very hard game to stream, I'm learning because it's like, oh, you need like, y just when you're streaming Magic, you've got things to talk about, things are moving, there's dynamic things happening, and the game ends. At some point, the game ends. When you're streaming Civ, there's a lot of times when you're tanking and you're like, "Okay, well, I need to make a trade agreement with Persia right now, but if I do that" and you're just, like, sitting there and just, like, thinking about numbers in your head, and that's not very interesting, except and this is a very strange tangent that has nothing to do with you. There's a streamer I've started watching named Potato McWhiskey. He is from
Oh, cute
Ireland.
name.
That is the most convenient name I've ever heard in my life. But he streams Civilization, and he is the most entertaining Civ streamer I've ever seen in my life because he'll just like keep up a long, fast patter. His videos on YouTube are totally worth your time if you enjoy any Civ at
I'm
all.
literally looking him up right now. So he does live streams, he does YouTube stuff, and it was
Yeah,
his
his YouTubes are
birthday.
best because he does
Uh,
full playlists and he puts up every day, like, an episode of whatever world he's playing. He's delightful. It is sheer just like, my wife, she doesn't like watching these, like, people play video games on YouTube or whatever, but at nighttime, we just sit and throw this guy on, and it's just like, he's just so entertaining and enjoyable, and he calls all of his fans Spuddies, and I'm like, "That I
Aw,
love
that's
that."
so cute. So, like, other than watching Magic and Civ, are there any other, like, genres or entertainers that, like, you usually go for?
Oh, you mean when I wanna just, like,
When you're
chill out at the end of
vibing,
the
yeah,
day?
or, like, editing or whatever else you have to do, what do going about your day.
So there is this music streamer named Ordo Pilot, ORTO Pilot. He's this dude from Britain, and he plays a like I discovered him because he's got a whole studio set up, and he plays a bunch of music covers, and he's also a talented musician in his own right. And the guy is got one of the most beautiful voices, and he takes requests from the audience, and he plays like he did this one. Someone was like, play a '90s mix, and he fully improvised a half an hour long mega medley of '90s dance hits that he retuned it to down tempo chill music, and it was one of the greatest things I've like ever heard. Or he makes up mashups on the spot, or he's just like he plays like 7 or 8 different instruments, and it's just like I will just put him on and listen to him for like 4 hours straight while I'm
That's
doing
so
whatever I'm doing.
cool.
It's
Yeah,
just joyful.
that's kind of like listening to music, but at this a bit
Yes,
more advanced.
yeah, but he's just, like, really, really good. And then there's, like, this, dude from Azerbaijan. His channel is called, like, Wilderness Cooking or something. He's just this chef who lives out in the hinterland on the border of Azerbaijan and Russia, and he goes out and he doesn't say anything. It's one of those just, like, I'm gonna cook a thing and not say anything type of videos, and he's like, today I'm going to go fishing for trout. Then I'm going to take a bunch of stones and build a tandoor oven by hand. And then I'm going to cut down a tree to build a stake, weld together a spit, and then stick these things in there. Because he's like, his dad was like a mechanic and crafter who taught him how to do all these metalworking and stuff. So, like, one episode, he's just like, he hatchets a tree down, builds a table out of it, uses that table to prepare this, like, boar that he killed, and then just like digs a big pit and builds a tandoor. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I'm a vegetarian and I'm watching this guy just like because when you watch somebody who is good at what they're doing, it doesn't matter what they're doing, you're just enamored by the art of it.
Is
Like
it,
that
like, edited together, or is it, like, here's, like, a 6-hour-long video
no,
of this stuff
they edited
happening?
it down, but like the
Okay.
interstitials are just like the sun over Azerbaijan or something. It's like beautiful. And
Aw.
it's just like it's so soothing and like at the end of the day, my wife's like, "Oh, are you watching your best friend carve out the lungs of a chicken?" I'm like, "Yes. Yes, I am." Very calmly, gently. It's so much
He's
fun.
making food.
It's making food. How can you go
Mhm.
wrong? I love that. Like, I don't watch a lot of game stuff because, like, I was in the games industry for a long time, and I play Magic and I do all this stuff for life, and, like, I watch you guys. I watch you a lot, and I watch the LRR folks, but when like, wanna just chill, I want to do something that is so far removed from this environment, and, like, watching people who are good at the thing they do the thing they're doing, that is just it's perfect for me.
Nice.
What do you do? Because like you're streaming all the time, it feels like.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of time to consume content. I listen to podcasts when I'm out walking, but none of them are podcasts.
Yes.
And when I'm editing videos, I watch Game Grumps, and I've been watching Game Grumps for like over a decade. So that's just me doing the exact same thing. I'm doing my homework, gonna put on the Grumps. There we
Mhm.
go.
Exactly that. It's just like
Hmm.
I'm like, "Here's just some chill out music, and I'm just gonna do my work." The problem is when I have to edit sound, and then it's like, "Oh, I can't listen
Yeah,
to
it has to be
anything." It's
something
like
you can pause easily. That's why I only do very simple editing with this. It's
yeah,
like,
well, I have a
yeah, I
podcast, I can't get away with simple editing. Um,
mhm.
but one of the things that you do that fascinates me, that probably harkens back to your old days of chatting, is that, like, every now and then I'll just tune into your channel, and you will be, like, taking a walk in Boston or something with a camera talking to it. That is,
Yes.
like, wild to me.
It's something I only could do recently because I had to essentially get gear for it, and I
Yeah,
just got
like
new fancy gear. Might be in the other room.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
I
it
got a stabilizer, a gimbal. It's
ooh, those are
crazy.
fun.
Otherwise, it was just me holding like
Like a
a
stick on
mount
your
for my
phone.
phone. Yeah, it's so
That
wild.
do
I
people
just
look at you weird when you're just, like, walking around and just, like, talking to your phone, like,
Not
holding
really. A few people do, but for the most part, I try to be very considerate. I'm not somebody who's like going up in people's faces. I am observing the environment fairly passively. I'm interacting with things that are meant to be interacted with. I'm
it's
not
fun, I just really enjoy it.
causing problems. Yeah, I go for really long walks. So like I I am a disabled person. I cannot run, but I do feel the need to exercise. So I go for long walks.
Mm,
That's what I can do.
you know what?
And
That's more than a lot of us do. Like
it's good for you. It keeps you in shape, and if
yeah.
I can share that with people sometimes, if the weather is good and I have the energy, then I will happily do so. They're not very popular streams, like it's metrics wise, but they're still
Yeah.
fun to do, and it's nice. I get to show people all the places I know because I've lived in Boston pretty much my whole life, so I can
Hmm.
just be like, "Yeah, here's our city. You can walk from one end to the other in one go. Here we are. All right, and we're done."
I
It
grew
takes
up
a
in
couple of hours.
Massachusetts. I'm from California, but I lived in Mass for, like, 5 years and then moved back.
You
But
were in the
yeah,
middle
like
of a state, right?
yeah, I lived in Shrewsbury, which is a tiny
I
town
know
right outside of
Shrewsbury.
Worcester, right off of
Yeah.
Route 9, and it's just like, look, I live in a very large city in Silicon Valley in San Jose when I was growing up, and so moving from there to a town where, um, everybody knew each other and, like, the Irish people and Italian people could be bigoted against each other because there weren't enough non-minorities that the white people had to find people to like because, "Oh, he goes to St. Peter's Church and I go to St. Paul's Church and we don't talk to each other." I'm like, "You're both Catholics. You're literal the same." But turns out Irish Catholic, Italian Catholic, not the same. Learned that very quickly. But yeah, like, I was in Massachusetts earlier this, summer, a few weeks ago, actually, right before my mom went to India, like we were talking about before off screen, and I was just taken aback by how much it reminded me of my childhood immediately, like, the trees in, like, North and Central Massachusetts have a very unique look about them, and there's, like, a lot of wildlife, and the sidewalks are just kinda ambient and amble all over the place, and I forgot that all the roads were designed by, like, drunk grasshoppers and
Horses, actually, it was horses.
horses.
Whatever was easiest for them to walk on, they just went, and now we walk them. I was talking with my boyfriend today, we were hiking this morning, that I have a very good sense of direction, and it makes navigating a windy, wild, windy city like Boston a lot easier because I know what direction I'm going in, even on a big curvy road where you can't really see stuff. But when somebody comes to Boston for the first time, a lot of them come from parts of the United States where they assume they need to drive. So they rent a car and then they drive. And then they spend hours lost and trying to find parking and they're miserable and they're stressed. And if just never drive in Boston. Don't do it.
No,
We have
no, never.
trains. Take them. I know they're not great. Just walk. You know what? You can
Oh
walk
my god, dude.
everywhere.
You know what though? It blew my mind. I took a train from freaking Logan Airport all the way to Lowell where I was going for my
Yeah, the
thing,
commuter rail.
and I was just like my brother was talking to me and we were like, "Can you imagine just taking a train from the airport to, like, your place that you need to go and having
Yeah.
it go there and be, like,
Uh-huh.
just efficient and existing?" And I'm like, "No, I can't." That's like in the Bay Area, that's like a fever dream. That's like
I
somebody laughs at you at
oh
the
my
pub and
gosh.
you're like, "Ah, trains taking you places."
I've had this discussion with people. Like I'm very openly a person who does not like California. I find California to be an abysmal place that just is set up in such a way that I would never want to live there. And
Anytime
that
you wanna
stinks
visit,
because
feel
there are
free.
so many wonderful people there that I would love to visit and hang out with. But like I walk places.
Yeah.
So for me, I will be like, "All right, so where in LA are you?" And I'll be in LA and they'll give me an address that's a 2-hour drive away and I'm like, "You're okay. You know what? Great. All right, let me reach out to this next person. So you're in the same sub city within LA. You're in Burbank or whatever. So where are you? And it's like, all right, you're only 4 miles away. Great. I can walk that. That's like a little over an hour's walk. And it goes under two interstates. Huh.
Dude,
Okay. I'm
so
gonna
I
like
would.
go on Google Maps and I'll like do the view thing and to be like, all right, so is there a tunnel under here? Can I get okay, I can get under this one. I can get under this one.
Yeah, and go through, like, the drug den or whatever it is.
I'm
Um
fine with that. The way I dress, especially, like, when I'm not trying to look like somebody who is put together, I look like I belong in those drug dens, and that's totally fine. I'm a very disheveled person day to day. I have basketball shorts on 90% of the time.
It was funny, I went to LA once and I pinged, Alex Kessler, and I was like, "Hey, man, can I come over and hang out?" And he's like, "Yeah, where are you?" And I mentioned the place I was at, and he's like, "It would be faster for me to meet you in San Francisco, where you came from, than it would be for me to go to that side of LA to meet you." And I was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
LA, though, is like LA doesn't count necessarily because that's, like,
But, like, I've
bizarrely
also been around, like,
horrifying.
northern, like, San
I'm not saying it's
Francisco
great,
Bay
it's
Area.
not.
It's a lot of it is still, like, it's got roads, and they're in a grid, and a lot of them don't have trees on them, and, like, in Southern California, I get that. You are in a desert through a lot of this. There are some parks with woods, but a lot of this is desert, they don't have trees, and I'm not a desert person, I'm a
Sure.
more temperate person. But in northern, where it's just like y'all don't have any trees on your sidewalks. It is so gray and sad, and you painted your houses pretty colors. It's so gray and sad, and then you get into the suburbs, and you're like, "What's with your crappy little lawns? You get out of there. I wanna see a tree. Where's a tree?"
You would like my house. My house has, like, a giant jungle garden in the backyard, it's amazing.
Good.
Um, multiple citrus trees, well, the thing is wild, like, when I grew up in where I grew up in California, when I was a young child, it was surrounded by walnut groves and citrus groves, and it was amazing, like, my grandfather and I used to go walking every day, and we would pick up giant sacks of walnuts that just fell from the trees, and we'd just bring them back, and, like, wind our way through the vineyard to get to elementary school and stuff, and now it's all just tract housing and just, like, suburb, and, like,
And I
they're
bet that
all
they
called
didn't
things like
keep any of
Walnut
those
Grove
trees.
or whatever, and it's like, well, I miss the actual walnuts that were there.
I was walking on Walnut Street on one of my recent walking streets that I pointed out. I bet I know why this was called this. And I was like, this tree is a black walnut tree. They are edible, but the outside is stains and will irritate your skin. So be careful with them.
Yes, I
And
love
like
that.
going through like we have a ton of good like forageable foods and
Yeah,
last like urban
that's a
foraging.
you're very good at segues because I wanna ask you about all these gigantic mushrooms you find on your walks. Like, we've been told our whole lives, "Don't eat random wild mushrooms," and every time I see you, you're like, "Look at this gigantic maitake that I just yanked off of a tree stump somewhere," and I'm like, "What the hell? Like, is that one of your other hobbies, mushrooming?"
I don't know if it's a hobby, it's just a thing I do. I like to eat free food and I consider that free food. So
That is fair.
if it's
Nature's
on the
bounty.
ground, I can take it and then it's mine. I don't know. I have a very good eye for identifying things. I grew up with like Massachusetts Audubon, the bird sanctuary
Yes.
system. My parents were a part of it, and they had me grow up through it. I studied under master naturalists and stuff. Is just like, yeah, this is the thing that we do. I can identify birds and trees, and they never actually taught me how to do mushrooms, but it was a very easy leap of I have good pattern recognition
Mm,
skills. A lot I can't describe this. I can look in a mushroom and be like, yes, that is this mushroom if I know what it is. There are certain types of mushrooms that are just like, this is this class of mushroom. I don't mess with those, but there's some easy identifiable ones where I am that it's just like, this is safe. I know what it is. There is one look-alike, but if it happens to be that, it's the same idea, but it tastes slightly not as good, but it's
mm.
still edible. And
Yes.
having that knowledge is the big thing. It's like, are you
Yes.
safe doing it? My mom sent me a picture today, of a couple mushrooms. She just sends me pictures, and I'm like, "Mom, you have to take pictures of the undersides. I can't ID these." But one of them was pretty easy because it's a rare mushroom because it only comes up during really, really rainy seasons, and we just had so much rain, and I'll try and show you the picture here through
Oh, that shows
my
up.
cell phone. So this weird cluster of white lumps is a cauliflower mushroom, and it is edible, and it looks like a lovely specimen. It looks like it's about a foot across,
That's amazing.
and I hope my mom tells me where it is because she's not gonna eat it. I will.
And then you can grab some butter and then have a good time.
I don't
There's a
need
board
butter.
game called Morels you should check out. It's about
Aw, I like
it's a
the little
two-player game
morals.
about mushrooms. It's delightful. Um, okay, let's pull it back to Magic for a second though,
What?
because
What's magic? That's
it's a
silly.
y sometimes the folks get grumpy when I'm, like, get too tangential. Well, no, they don't. Actually, I think I've proven recently that my audience is on board as long as the conversation is interesting, and I'm having a good time. Um, so when did you start streaming Arena? Why?
Once it would like the day it was legally allowed to be streamed, because I was in the closed beta. Uh, and why? Because I liked Magic. Like I played a little bit of duels too on stream.
Mm.
I used to do lots of different variety streaming because like I
Wait,
am a person of variety, so I'll do whatever.
I guess
Uh,
I should pull back. When did you start streaming games? Forget Magic, like,
when I moved over to Twitch, which was I had a couple different accounts on Twitch
so have
because I
you just
tried
been, like,
different
streaming
things.
continuously since you were, like, a kid?
Yeah, it's fun.
Like, we talked about that, but, like, you just after you got out of college, you were just
I
like, "Well, I'm gonna keep doing this?"
there was some time in college where I didn't stream as much because I just didn't have time. I was a student who put a lot in. I almost had 2 minors, but instead I was just, like, 2 classes short, which ooh, it was so
Oh, it's
close. But I took the course limit for
mm.
every single semester, and it was just one of those yeah, I almost had my major in mechanical engineering, that's what I did have, but also my minors in dance, and of course
What?
or not it was specifically, drama, but drama was dance and lighting, and then also in, geology because I like rocks. Rocks rock.
You're an amazing person.
I'm an eclectic person. I love everything. I have, like, everything enthusiast is one of my tags, and people will be like, "What does it mean?" It's like, "I like things." They're like,
Y
"What kind of things?" "Things."
yes. I
Yes.
I feel like you and I would have been very good friends in college because I am
I
exactly that person. I
The
just like
hardest thing is
things.
just, like yeah, in college, I just didn't have a lot of time, so I wasn't doing it that much, but whenever I would have time, like during summer break because, it was in one of those many economic downturns of the, 2000s, you know how it
Mhm.
is. Yeah, I couldn't really get jobs. I had internships during some of the years, but it was just like, yeah, no, I couldn't get a job at the local grocery store.
I
It's
know the feeling.
terrible.
In 2008, man, I was in the video games industry, and then I wasn't because the whole thing shut down. Um,
Yeah. That was, like, the year before I started college, so, like, in high school, I remember my parents being like, "So do you think you could get a job?" And I was like, "I don't know. Do you think
no.
you could in this market?"
I laugh because I cry. Um,
Oh.
believe me, man, it's a rough one out here. Silicon Valley life right now is not great because all the tech companies I would be hiring are not.
Oh.
Um, yeah, let me tell you. But so, what did you stream then? Like, what kind of games do you play, or what
I
did you?
like so
Huh?
many types of games,
Well,
but
yeah,
I
I
would
guess
say
I
that the games I was streaming starting out were the games that I just happened to be playing.
like
So,
whatever you
like,
were on at the time, you were just
Team
like, this is on.
Fortress 2, yeah, I wonder if I could just, like, look through my old Steam history and figure it out, but I would also do things like streaming dancing and cooking,
Wow, you
things like
really were
that.
just like an all-purpose everything streamer for like a
Yeah,
long
like, when
time.
I say variety streamer, it's like, I will play my first person shooters, I'll play my adventure games, like, yeah, ukulele comes out, let's play some ukulele. I'll play some, like, older games, some indie games, some big titles, whatever I happen to be playing, whatever I happen to be doing. I'm
So
not the
then
person who's, like, looking to share their life, that's not what this is. It's much more of just, I think I could turn this into entertainment, so I will.
that is so amazing. Then Does it feel weird just having to stream Magic all the time? Because that's what you do? As, like, that's what your main audience, I guess, is now?
It is a little weird. I mean, it would be more difficult schedule-wise and, like, the kind of upfront work of setting everything up if I did variety stuff.
Mm,
I am very happy streaming Magic. It is a game that I can play for 50 hours in a week because it is a game that you can do infinite things in.
yep.
What is it? It's Turing complete. Uh, I am the computer who is being coded through Magic the Gathering. That is me. And I I don't know, I can always have fun, especially because there's always different things, and Wizards of the Coast has done an amazing job of releasing a ton of stuff, and, like, it's a bit too much. I'm at the point where it's just like, "Okay, I can only pay attention to standard releases because what is happening over there?" Lord of the Rings, I will make an exception for because I love me some Lord of the
Lord
Rings.
of the Rings Limited was so much fun.
It was great. I described it as a fantastic newer player format that is great the first, like, 10 to 20 times you play it. It's not great for, like, 50 times,
Mm.
um, but
Most
that's
core set feels are
fine
like that though,
for
right?
most people. Yeah, like, most people are not gonna play a draft 50 times because 'cause they're not streamers or grinders or anything like that. Well, I'll talk with other streamers about this stuff. I'll be like, "Oh, Voxy, how are you feeling about this?" And she'll be like, "Oh yeah, and I'm feeling about this way and shit." And I'm like, "I'm feeling that way too. Glad to hear that we're kind of on the same page." With a lot of limited streamers, you have like that kind of talk of just like,
Oh, yeah.
"Do you think you'd be playing a lot of this set?"
Yeah, like, I've talked to Newmont before, and he's like you can tell when he's having a good time or, like, when he's having a bad time with the set because suddenly you go and he's streaming Pokemon, and it's just like, "Oh, right. He must not be enjoying the 38th draft of whatever this is."
Yeah, well, right now he's been sponsored by a game that I wish I was sponsored by because it's been Genshin Impact, and I'm just like, I want to play Breath of the Waifu for money right
Oh
now.
god.
I want to walk in a straight line and throw money into the game and roll out pretty pictures of weird anime people.
Genshin is one of those games that people are like, "Man, you would love this." I'm like, "No, I would bankrupt myself on that, and I know better." Like, "No, thank you." That game is keyed to being exactly the things that make me happy, and I'm like, I can't do that
Yeah,
because
so right now I have other games I'm playing though. I'm busy with Pikmin and Zelda.
yeah, like, I'm right now the only thing I've been playing for the last 200 and 300 hours is Tears of the Kingdom, and
Yeah, this game's really big.
it's really big,
It's
and I
really
need
big.
have a compulsion to do every possible thing I can in there, so that's what I'm doing. Gotta hunt down every Molduga or whatever the hell's in there because 'cause I'm gonna feel real bad if I
Oh,
miss
you're
one.
gonna fight them up. You're just like, I will destroy every monster. I'm gonna
Every
fully upgrade my armor.
Oh, yeah. Even the ones you don't wear, even the jank crap, like, sacks that look like just paper bags that Link is wearing, I'm like, "It's gotta be level 4 or I'm going to have a problem." Don't be obsessive and play video games, friends, it doesn't work out for you. Um, God, dude, it's like suddenly I'm like, "Damn, you are way more interesting and complex than I thought walking into this, and I already thought you were interesting and complex." So
I don't listen to him. I'm really not that interesting. Let me tell you about something awesome I did do this morning, though. I went to the zoo before I went hiking. This is the Stone Zoo in Stoneham, Mass. For anybody who's local, if you get there right at the opening, that's when the animals are a little bit more perky because they
mhm,
haven't been screamed at by children for many hours. We got there right when it opened, and they have a pack of Mexican gray wolves in a very large enclosure. And the wolves are typically in the back of this enclosure, out of sight, just kind of hiding. They were up front. And something I like to do with predator animals is see if I can get them to chase me. And so I couldn't get them to chase me. I got them to run with me. So
That is
I was running
amazing.
for like back and forth, going cross enclosure with like a dozen wolves just kind of like hopping up at the fence, like, yeah, yeah, turn
Packmate!
around, go this way now. And I'm just like running with these wolves with my boyfriend, just having so much fun.
That's the
I got
greatest
to
thing
run with
ever.
a wolf pack. It was amazing.
That's that's pretty unbeatable, dude, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, anyway, you should find your own fun in the world, people. Find your own fun. Go to the zoo when it opens so you can get the mountain lion to chase you and then be like, I wonder if this works with wolves. Turns out, no, they want to play with you. The mountain lion does want to kill you.
Fair. I mean,
100% wants to kill you.
I went to a zoo and I saw a big silverback gorilla and he was just hanging out and I was like, "Cool, let me go look at this guy." And I walked up to him and he turns around and sees me and just barrel charges at the plexiglass between us. And I was like, "Oh, I'm actually going to go anywhere but here, and you can have a nice rest of your life without me."
Yeah, see, the difference is the wolves, those are dogs, and the gorilla, that's a guy. That's just
Yeah.
like an upset guy.
Yo, he is. Grandpa was angry and wanted me off of his lawn
Mhm.
immediately, and I was like, "You know what? I will respect you and leave."
Oh, yeah, you
Uh,
mentioned you were in Mass recently because you had gone up to Lowell.
yeah.
Um, when you were here, I remember you reached out and said, like, "Hey, do you think that we could hang out at some point?" And you said you were going to be in Lowell, and I was like, "That's so far away. I'm so sad I didn't get to see you, though. It would have been so nice to
I
hang
would have
out."
loved to have been able to hang out. It would have been super cool, but I understand because, like, from California, and around here, so my British cousins came by once in the '90s, and they were visiting, and they were like, when we say around the block, we mean, like, we can walk there. When you say around the block, that's like a 2-hour drive, and grandma's meeting you at the door and waving you off tearfully and hoping that you come home safe and sending you a picnic basket. And I'm like, yeah, California is big and everything is very spread out. And they're like, dude, the distance between your house and the arcade, like, that is 2 dialects away from my house, And I'm like, Yeah, yeah, that's the West Coast of America. We just have room and use it." Um, so I had a very different perspective. I'm like, "Oh, it's only like an hour, 2 hours away, whatevs." And it's like, "Oh, no, that's a lot on the East Coast. That's, like, states away." Um,
I could drive to another state in an hour easily. I could go to New Hampshire. I could go,
I mean, I was
gosh,
almost in New Hampshire. I was, like, at the border of
Connecticut,
New Hampshire anyways.
Rhode Island. Yeah, it's right near the border like that in
Yeah.
Haverhill.
But it's fine. It was lovely. I went there for a religious thing and to go see some of my old family and stuff that I haven't seen in, well, not family, I guess, like, community members I haven't seen in, like, 20, 30 years. It was nice. Um, and then I met one of my friends. Well, I met a Twitter friend who's a professor at Wellesley. She's really cool. And so we got to hang out and saw her collection of cool things. Um, but yeah, so what do you I'm like, how do I rerail this conversation? I don't. This is cool. Uh
Oh my gosh. So, Thrones of Eldraine. We've got a new magic set coming out. Do you want to talk about that? Because I just finished reading the story. Did you finish reading the
I have
story?
read, like, the first one, and then I haven't gotten the rest of them yet because
Oh
school
my
just started for my
god.
son, so I had to, put that on hold until I got all that squared away, and I'm planning to do that this weekend. But tell me, what do you got?
Can I say a
Yeah,
spoiler for
hit
the
me. Yeah, sure.
advanced part? Okay, spoilers for anybody who is planning on reading the Thrones, or sorry, the Wilds of Eldraine story and hasn't read it yet. Oko is a dad.
You know what? I read that because, like, I saw that somebody mentioned that, like, and I was sitting there like, "You know what? Of all the planeswalkers who have children, like, Oko is like, there's, like, Tamio and there's Angrath, and Oko is the one guy who I would believe has many children across
In many
many
places.
planes that
Mhm.
we just don't know about, because if there's anybody who's going to have children with any gendered parent, it's going to be that dude.
He legit showed up and was just like, "Hey, pretty lady, tell me about this place." And so they hit it off real strong,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that, I guess, turned out into a fruitful harvest
Fruitful.
of baby. Mhm. And, that is a character from the set, and
Yeah.
yeah, and still the fact that, so apparently Oko had, like, hopped to Eldraine at some point, like, 15 years ago, and that's when this had happened. Um, it's so strange though, because I was just like, "Oh yeah, no, Oko hasn't been here before." He clearly doesn't know a lot about the plane because of his previous encounter. He legit is just like, "Hey, so what's going on here?" Everybody he encounters. It I think that this is a retcon, and that's fine. Like, listen, which is because you can do what you want with your characters. That's okay. I'm okay with you
It's
doing that.
Oko, so it's
It's
okay.
okay, so it's okay. I think it would have been way funnier if he, like, never knew what plane he was on, and he was just like, "Oh, yeah, no, I just kinda go places and flirt with women," and I'd be like, "Oh my god, same."
Dude, he's like Zeus. He just shows up, has a kid or 3, and then pieces out again. It's like,
Mhm.
live your life. Live your best life, Oko. Like, if I had washboard abs like that, uh, oh, I'm probably still wouldn't do anything because I'm just a lawful
You'd
good
be so
paladin.
busy working at your abs, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. I mean, he spent a lot of time just hanging out. But, like, I love that, like, this weird contrast between, like, Garrick, who's adopting Will and Rowan and, like, being, like, good burly dad guy, and then Oko is just like, "Oh, by the way, here, good luck, parentless child, have fun." Um Yeah, I don't know. The set looks sick though, and the I think my favorite part is the fact that all the alt arts look like golden books from the '50s and have that weird pop art fantasy
Oh,
look.
yeah, I like the, alt art style for this. I feel like Eldraine I like the storybook style before too.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're revisiting that, and they're also doing some more of the, like, experimental art with it. It does look good. The only one of the alt arts I think is bad, like, actively bad, is the Ixalan one, which stinks because 'cause we're about to go there. It's the coin.
Oh, I didn't like those at all.
Yeah, I think in general they are apparently somebody did an analysis of, like, what is the price data for
Hmm.
alt arts versus regular arts, foils, non-foils for any of these cards, because the, alt arts are more rare, and of
Yeah.
them, the only one that is significantly less expensive because people hate the art for it are the excellent ones. So it's pretty universal. I think there's a lot of people who are just like, "This looks indistinct and
It's
bad." I
weird.
wonder if it will be changed for the next set.
I
I could
hope
see
so,
that.
but I mean, they
Yeah.
did get a famous numismatist to draw those. Like the person who painted those is like a famous coin carver guy. But I'm like, that's cool and
Yes,
stuff,
okay, but we're not
but
selling coins, we're selling
they're
cards.
not fun to look at. They're not very
No.
interesting. I think Eldraina has probably the best of the alt art types that they've done. That and like the Kaladesh inventions, which I just love. I love
Oh,
that copper
they're
kind
very
of
pretty and,
styling.
like, spiral yeah, the filigree, it's so
Oh yeah, it's
cute.
so good. I'm looking forward to if they ever come back, what it would look like now. Because like I hope they do more of that because I think it's sick.
A
Um,
little less naturey, I'm guessing, a little bit more recovering from an interdimensional war.
Probably, yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of just like glass shards and stuff all over the place and just like random springs
Yummy.
popping out.
Or maybe they're just like, "Hey, these guys are made of metal, we could probably do something with that."
Oh god, can you imagine like coffee tables made out of Phyrexians that are just like
It's
walking
just like
along?
the next Noxious Gearhulk is a bunch of, like, Phyrexian Gargantuas stapled together, like, "Yeah, that's regular."
I'm just imagining like, Saheeli's got a coffee machine that's just like a Jin Gitaxias probe, just kind of like she pulls it on a tentacle and just pours coffee out or something like that. I could see them repurposing old carcasses like that. That would be hilarious. Um, Cool. Okay, so if people wanted to find you and see you, actually, you know what? This has been a lovely chat. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks
I
for
really
letting me
enjoyed
ramble
this.
about stuff.
Oh, dude, I love it. I love rambling. I love rambling. I love learning about things. Um, so if people wanted to find you and see your stuff or whatever, where could they go?
Twitch.tv/Amazonian almost every single day, and youtube.com/Amazonian if you don't like live formatting. I've been trying to make more YouTube stuff. It's not really my jam, but like I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, I didn't know you had a YouTube channel, but I mean, I guess it's a good place to archive stuff if you do something
It's not
cool.
just art. No, I'm editing stuff. I make stuff
Oh,
specifically for YouTube.
fancy.
That's my treat to all the people out there who need to consume the Amy content, but don't like live.
The thing is, I've realized that I like YouTube content more than live content a large chunk of the time, just because it's easier for me to consume at weird hours. Because as a dad, I only get to I only get to watch things like randomly late at night because that's after my kid goes to sleep. So I like to be able to watch things on the YouTube. But with that, my friend, as always, you can find me at Gear Pretty Gears. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at Cool Stuff Inc. on Tuesdays, or at YouTube on Tuesdays. Thank you to my partner EK, and you can also find me on the Shivman Wheeler Love Magic podcast that comes out on the 1st and 15th of every month. And you can find me on the Chronicle of Dragonlance podcast that comes out on the 1st of every month. And probably on Twitter and I don't know, Blue Sky and Mastodon, whatever. You know where to find me. I'm not hard to find. I'm a very easy person to find. But remember, my friends, it is not magic without the gathering, and we will see you next time.